Okay, we've seen this, how this moves up and down, and now we want to go to the wiring harness table, but I want to show you this cover here. This is quite a unique piece, and as you can see here, a lot of rust down here, okay? I've even had to make this piece and bring it up into here and spot weld it in and finish it off because of the water laying in the car. This has been kind of a hard piece to find, and if you notice the manufacturer, whether this is an I or an H or whatever, but this is the common marking on an original one, you know. Here's the outside of it, or this would face like this, okay? And this protects your switches. Again, a lot of rust here. These bolts here, as this fits on here, we have one bolt in the back. We have one bolt here. These two here are securing the bracket to the door jamb of the car. Then we have two bolts down here that actually, there's a plate underneath the body that this bolts to and this bolts to. And I have found that the common bolt, again, for this bottom one is that screw here we had just a minute ago here that would mount, that is used for attaching this cover here. We also have this grommet. Now these are usually, originals are usually kind of hard and things like that, but that actually slipped over the wiring harness right here and shoved down in this area here to protect as it went through, to keep it away from the metal. I can go to a hardware store, get a similar grommet, cut it, and usually I do that because these are hard and pretty brittle, and this one doesn't seem to be too bad, but that's what you have as a protector going through this hole here. Also want to show you this other silly little bracket on the back here. This wiring harness actually slipped through this bracket and held this unit, or this coupler right here. And the only thing I don't like about that is I have seen when this moves back and forth, this can actually get in the way. This can actually get in the way. So what I generally do is I don't even use this bracket. I just leave this laying in the back of the door jamb, and then it's out of the way of anything moving. Okay, let's go on to these brackets here that this would be for your 56 and 57. This is mounted above the push button for by your glove box, okay? Notice that on this face of this bracket that holds this switch, that this face is smooth. This is 56 only. 56 only. In 57, they changed that to this type of bracket. Can you see that lump, that raised area? And the reason they did that, they were using a different type of coupler here for the wiring harness. That was setting up in there like this, and they needed that room. And that would hook to your switch, something like that right there. On 56, they had single wires that hooked to each of these. Single wires. So this is 56 and 57. This bracket here is 56 and 57 if you had a power top. This bracket here is 56 only. This bracket here with the bulge in it is 1957 to 1962. These were also, as you can see, slotted to be adjustable. This one for the 58 to 62, your catch mechanism already has the bracket on there for this. But 56, 57, you had to have this type of bracket. It was held in with this type of bar in the back, okay, on both sides. So that is our bracket, our switch bracket, and our switch with 4 terminals for above the glove box. These are also mounted, and I've seen some different mounts. This one here you can see he's got a, I can't even remember that type of head, but anyway, it's a round-headed, and it's got a star washer underneath it. I've seen them with Phillips heads. I've never seen them with a slotted screw head. I've also found this type of bolt right here, as we have seen being used in the side switch assembly. I have seen that also holding this bracket in. So yeah, different, sometimes some different bolts and different screws. We're going to come now to this, what I call the switch assembly and the trunk divider, okay? This switch assembly right here. Now, I want to come back to this one again, okay? You can see that I've got this primed. I forgot to say, but this from the factory, 58 to 62, this was raw metal. There was no paint on those brackets originally. I've taken a number of them off to where they're just rusted, and I could tell that they were raw metal. But the 56, 57, every one of them has been painted, the area of that interior. So that's the difference there. Now let's come to the what I call the trunk divider switches, which is behind the driver's seat in that divider that separates the trunk area from where the gas tank area is. And I have found these brackets also that bolt to the trunk divider, raw metal. You can see now here a little bit of paint. This was installed before the car was painted. They must have had a mask on it or something to keep the switches from getting overspray on them. And some of the switches I have seen a little bit of overspray on, okay? But this was already mounted in the car. This was mounted on top of it. And I believe in the trunk area where the switches are and the wiring harness and the switches, they must have had a mask on those to protect them to a certain degree. But these have always been raw metal, and you can see just a little bit of a paint line there as that switch set in there, and you're looking now from the trunk area, you can see that paint line right there. The rest of it, raw metal. These switches here are the same switches that are used in the side switch assembly, BA2R-L2. This switch assembly sets in the trunk divider this way. From looking from the rear of the car forward, you will see the switches in that area there in the trunk. This wiring harness then goes through the hole in the trunk divider and feeds back of the motor and the solenoids and tucks around by the spring tower to connect to the main wiring harness. These switches also, on this bracket here, we have elongated for them to be adjusted. Swing back and forth. The very same bolts here, again, are used from this type of bolt. I have seen attaching this to the trunk divider. And I have seen this bolt also used to attach the cover. There's 3 bolts that attach the cover, 2 to the metal bracket and 1 to the trunk divider, which have little T-nuts on the back side. So this is our, what I call the trunk divider switches. And in another video, I'm going to explain how to adjust these. By looking down at this, we're going to go over this wiring harness here. By looking down at this switch assembly and your rollers pointing inward now, pointing inward, Chris, get a good shot of this wiring harness here. This will help them. We have on the single post, we have a white wire. On the inward part, we have a purple wire. And then on the outside, we have a pink wire. On this switch over here, we come to the inward part, we have a pink wire. On the outward, we have a brown wire. To the single post, we have an orange wire. So we're going to hold that camera right there for a few minutes and give you so you can get a good look at that. Because this is the proper wiring of the switch in what I call the trunk divider. Remember, okay, we've got our rollers down here, and this is the way that it would set in against that trunk divider. Okay, let's roll it down now and take a look again. This is very important. I've had a lot of men call me on this very situation, so this makes it a lot easier. We have purple, pink, white, orange, pink, brown. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the bracket for the switch in the trunk area. There was 2 made, 56 only. This switch in the bracket, this switch bracket mounted on the driver's side on your spring tower in the trunk area, okay? On 57 to 62, they reversed this. You can see the difference here. You can see the difference there. This is 56. This is 57 to 62. And I'm going to have Chris hold his camera there, and we're going to put them in there the way they would have been. So this one would have been mounting on the passenger side of the car, 57 to 62. And this would be mounting on the driver's side, 56 only. 56 only. Here, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. There we go. There we go. You can see that this angles left and this part here angles right. So those are the 2 different ones. A lot of guys have advertised these all the same, 56 to 62, but that's not the way it is, okay? Then we have this switch right here, which has 2 prongs on it. It's just an on and off switch, and it mounts here. I've seen sheet metal screws hold those on, and I've seen little, probably 632 bolts hold them on. But it is the same switch from 56 to 62. Then one more thing in the trunk area is we've got this brace that mounts to the trunk floor. This holds your deck lid cylinder. And from the factory, this was a natural color. Now this has been bead blasted up, probably a little bit too much. I got some rust on it here and stuff like this. This would be okay for a driver type car. But this, in a car that is done to, you know, 100, you know, wanting to have a 98, 99 point car or whatever, or wanting it original, this would be a natural color. It was never painted. Also, the bolts that I have found to hold this on was your WB1Cs. WB1Cs. They're, let's see if we can get that in there. Does that show WB1C? Okay. And we've got 3 bolts here. And so those were basically WB1Cs. Hey, thank you for watching the video. And it's Corvette Power Top Service, Fort Wayne, Indiana. And just remember, I got the power, but it's these power tops is what I got. Okay, thank you. Have a great day.